As you reflect on your life, what age range do you think is your best or will be your best? Well, for many women who hit the age of 40, they say they are in their stride, they are feeling their groove, they finally know and accept their bodies, they know what they want to do in life, they're feeling a little more confident. And then a few years later, poof, it all goes out the window when menopause hits. Now, fortunately, not everybody goes through a miserable menopause, but from vaginal dryness and vaginal atrophy, sleepless nights, bitchy moods, there's a lot to contend with as our hormones go wickety wonkety. Well, I don't know about you, but I would rather be able to step into what many consider to be the best area of life, because during this era of life, the kids are usually gone and away, you've already proven yourself in a career, or you're finding your mojo to really go out there and start a career or a passion or a charity or some cause that you truly believe in. Welcome to Liberate Your Authentic Self with Dr. Andrea Pennington, the prescription for living your life out loud. So, Pat, thank you so much for joining us here at Liberate Your Authentic Self.
It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. I am really excited to jump into this conversation because, like you, I feel that midlife can be, a juicy, delicious, wonderful time, especially for us women. But unfortunately, not all of us, get there because of, a number of things, including menopause. So what was it that allowed you to break away from your public sector life and really focus on your entrepreneurial passion in your mid-50s?
Well, like most women, you don't change because you're comfortable. Most of us, if life's going along really well, we're not going to say, I'm going to give all that up and go and do something else. So I'd had, a number over 30 happy years working in the public sector. And then I was walking to work one day and I was crying. And beautiful park, London, Big Ben in the background, and tears rolling down my face. And that's when you've got to do something different, because whatever had gone before, you're now not happy. And I wasn't happy in that moment. And so I came home and said to my husband, that's it, I've got to make a change. I want to do something different. And I'd always had an interest in how the brain works and in neuro-linguistic programming, but also in coaching and mentoring as well. So that's when I decided, and I enrolled to do a neuro-linguistic programming and cognitive hypnotherapy course. And the universe rewarded me. I'd taken that first step and the universe noticed it and said, okay. And along came a scheme for early retirement, and I was in my mid-50s, so I could go. So within a few months, I was out the door studying and getting ready for my new life.
Wow, that's awesome. So for you, it was really this internal calling. It was like, okay, done with this other version of life. It's time to really find what makes me passionate. And how did you come to, so I know that you've had this background as doing this cognitive hypnotherapy and coaching. What made you decide to focus on helping women through menopause?
It was something that I felt strongly about as I was approaching menopause. So, early 50s is the average age for menopause. And as I was getting to that age, I realized how little I knew about what to expect. Because my mother had had a hysterectomy in her early 40s. I didn't have that many close female relatives. I didn't have a sister that I could talk to. And I realized I just didn't know enough about it. And the whole thing was becoming a bit of a mystery to me. And then when I started talking to other women, I realized they didn't know a lot about it either. They knew it was coming. Most of them were putting their fingers in their ears and going, la, la, la. They didn't want to acknowledge that this was on the horizon. And I thought, well, we need to be talking more about this. We need to be talking about it positively because it's going to happen. And there are lots of things you can do. And that's what I wanted to bring out. This isn't a situation in which you are helpless. There are lots of options. And that became my crusade, was to talk about the options.
Right. And I think that's important for us to talk about, because I think even just 15 years ago, women kind of were programmed to think that, okay, if I really got really bad menopausal symptoms, whether those are hot flashes or insomnia or what have you, they figured there was really only one path to go, and that was, hormone replacement therapy.
Yeah.
But now we are so tuned into the mind-body connection, Chinese herbs, other supplements, and all of these alternative practices. But with your background, with the cognitive hypnotherapy and the NLP, I love that you're bringing this this combination of, yes, understanding what your options are, for supplements and things you would take in, but you can also take control with your mind. Tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely, because there's been enough research to show that women who feel supported through menopause have a better experience. It almost sounds so obvious, why even bother saying it? But, you don't even think about it. So whether they feel supported at home or supported in the office. So there's something going on with our attitude that's really important to this stage of life. And, so many of the symptoms of menopause are connected to what's going on in our heads. So if we start to feel stressed, we're heating up the body and we're making it more likely that we're going to get hot flushes. We can start to feel lack of confidence and makes us want to kind of retreat in this stage of life. And, women aren't sleeping properly, and there's so much you can do around getting the sleep issue sorted out, because often sleep is about laying in bed at night worrying about stuff. It's not that we just can't sleep physically. It's that our heads are driving this action the whole time. That means we can't sleep properly. So there's so much in this mind-body connection that means if we can get in there and sort our heads out, it's going to have a real impact on our physical health and our emotional health as well.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the sleep thing, because I know a lot of women complain about hot flashes and then they end up taking off clothes and then it passes and then they put their clothes back on. But with sleep, it is really one of the most frustrating, I think, early on, simply because if you're not getting good restorative sleep, all of the other symptoms irritate you even more. So the bitchy moods and the, vaginal dryness and whatever, the weight gain, it compounds. So what are the top solutions that you have found most effective with getting good sleep when you're experiencing these menopausal or perimenopausal symptoms?
So the first one is dealing with all of that talk that's going on in the head. So some really easy relaxation techniques that you can use, relaxation breathing. That's the first thing that I teach to my clients, is getting into the breath, being mindful of the breath, and then making the out breath longer than the in breath. Because just by doing that, you're calming your system down. You're bringing your parasympathetic system into play. It wants to just calm you down, relax you. It just happens automatically. It's not complicated. You can learn to do it really quickly, and it can be really effective. So just doing that is a start. Learning some things to do with the talk that's going on in the head. It's a revelation to so many people, they don't have to think their thoughts. This stuff will just keep coming up and you can just go, thank you, I'll just let that one go by. In the UK, I talk about letting the buses go by at the bus stop. If you're standing waiting for a bus or a train, something turns up that's not going the direction you want it to go in, don't get on it. Let it go by. Wait for one of the ones that is going where you want it to go. So some really simple techniques, again, about dealing with the thoughts. And then the third thing I would say is around doing some cool visualizations. There's been a lot of research into this, particularly around women having hot flushes as a result of medical treatment, such as having chemotherapy for cancer treatment. And Core visualization combined with these relaxation techniques has been shown to be so powerful, and it's not affecting anything else in your treatment. It's not a sort of a contraindication. You can just lay there and think about cool stuff. And when you think about it, if you're watching TV and up comes a film about the Arctic or the Antarctic and you're watching penguins playing in the ice, you start to think, I think I'll just go and put something extra on to wear. I'm starting to feel cold. And it's just the brain responding to the images. So if you can find your own really powerful, cool image, then you can just help prime your body to cool you down. It's that simple.
So would you imagine that you're, I don't know, in the Antarctic, or, advise people to just imagine that there's a cool breeze sort of brushing across their skin? I know that you have some resources on your website, Hot Women Cool Solutions, and some of it includes these kinds of things like guided meditations, right?
Absolutely. And one of the most powerful things is your own image, the thing that makes you feel cool. So I could guide you somewhere that had polar bears and ice, and you think, oh no, that's too cold, I'm not comfortable with that. I had one client who imagined putting her feet into a pair of Wellington boots that had cold water in them.
Okay.
I wouldn't find that particularly comfortable, but for her, that was wonderful. Or another client who just imagines a really cold drink and just seeing all that condensation running down the outside, and picking it up and having that cold drink. So although I guide people through visualizations, once you understand how to do it, the most powerful one will be the image that you bring up in your mind that makes you feel cool and comfortable.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that we can trick the body, literally, to feel what we want it to feel, just by manipulating the images in our minds. And so I love, so we start with breathing, which I think is a perfect entree into mindfulness,
Yes.
Just focusing on the breath. As you say, a deep breath in and letting that exhale be longer than the inhale, which, is wonderful because it lowers the stress response. Because I have a lot of patients who tell me as soon as they feel that hot flash coming on, or as soon as they're laying in bed realizing, oh my gosh, I'm not sleeping again and I have a big day, that really turns on our stress response and just makes matters even worse. Right? We get all charged up and then we're judging ourselves, in your second thing about thinking the thoughts. Then we start judging ourselves I can't get this stuff, I can't sleep, and right? So I love that you've kind of given us that sequence that you really could practice in a sequence by taking these deep breaths and letting the little busts of these negative thoughts or whatever thoughts kind of pass on by.
And again, with those thoughts, it's the image that works for you. So, you can use the bus. In the UK, I talk about the bad tea bags and the good tea bags. You don't put, if you put a bad tea bag into a bowl of hot water, you're going to get a bad cup of tea. Throw it away. You're choosing the tea bags. Put a lovely tea bag in, and then you get a nice cup of tea. It's really whatever the visualization is that works for you. If you're sporty, you might think about batting them away with a tennis racket, or, just think, what is it that works for you that means that you can just let those thoughts go, because your brain is watching out for which thoughts you're paying attention to, which ones you're giving the time and the energy to. If you don't give those negative thoughts the time and the energy, they will just dissolve away.
And what are the recommendations you have for, alternatives to hormone replacement therapy?
Well, you mentioned a few of them. So you can look at the sort of herbal remedies, the traditional Chinese medicine herbal remedies, or, with all of these, it's worth talking to a practitioner. You can go in and talk in a health food shop, or, to a practitioner. Self-medication with these things is always a bit trial and error, whereas if you go and see a practitioner, you're going to get something that's more tailored to you and your constitution. So there's a lot of homeopathic remedies, and again, go and talk to a homeopathic practitioner, because they're going to understand more about how your body is made up, your constitution. They'll ask you questions that will dig that bit deeper. Not just, are you having a hot flush, but where does it start? Where does it finish? How long does it last? Is it in your back or your front? Is it more at night or day? You know, that type of information to a homeopath tells them a lot more about what particular remedy you need. And, you know, if you're having sleep problems, are you waking up during the night? Is it a problem going to sleep? Are you waking up too early? These are very specific phases to understand more about what will suit you better. But there are a lot of homeopathic remedies. There are a lot of TCM, traditional Chinese remedies that could work for you.
And have you seen with your clients any effect with diet and exercise?
Oh my goodness. Diet and nutrition is just so important. We could spend the rest of our time just talking about that. You know, I'm not a nutritionist, so I've worked with nutritionists on this. And I think for a lot of women, it can be very confusing because they get so much advice. So the place to start is by starting to notice your symptoms. You know, start really basic at keeping some kind of journal about what you're eating, what you're drinking, when, and then the response that you get to it. Because starting by understanding the triggers to your symptoms means you can start to eliminate things that are causing the problems. Again, this might seem so obvious, but I found that it isn't that obvious. So, you know, if I'm eating beef on a Sunday, I'm going to feel hot that night because beef for me is something that heats up my system. And I don't know if you find that with your clients, that there are certain food triggers, whether it's sugar, alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely. And just as you described, I recommend that you keep a daily diary for at least a couple of weeks to even a month, since as some women are entering sort of the perimenopausal phase, they may still have some of their natural estrogen and testosterone and, you know, progesterone around. So if you track your temperature or your symptoms along with what you're eating, you know, a lot of women will find that they have to cut out certain spicy foods. Because like with you and the beef, it just gets them all heated up, whether it's alcohol or caffeine. You know, really starting to track what you eat and how you feel can empower you a great deal to actually control the symptoms very simply. Well, when we get back from the break, I'd love to shift gears just a little bit and talk about the other side. Like once you manage the symptoms or you get fully, you know, beyond the ickiness of, you know, what can be a trying transition, then you get into the good part of life. At least that's what I look at it as. So when we get back, Pat, I'd love it if you talk to us about your entrepreneurial mojo that comes at midlife. Tune in daily to get fired up with insight and inspiration for purposeful living, conscious relationships, and soulful success. You're watching Liberate Your Authentic Self with me, Dr. Andrea Pennington. Check out the live version of this show, where I answer your questions in real time. Visit facebook.com/Dr. Andrea Pennington. For many of us, thinking about midlife when we were kids sounded like we'd be old, bored, sitting on a porch somewhere. But the reality is, after you get past your 40s and into your 50s and even your 60s, there's a new freedom, there's a new passion that can actually light you up and turn you on. And what better way to use that energy and passion than in some service? Service to the world, service in a business. Well, Pat is going to talk to us about her entrepreneurial mojo that came in her mid-50s, and now she's sharing it with the world. So Pat, talk to me about how you decided to shift from, you know, your traditional kind of work life into being an entrepreneur.
Well, I had no background in this at all. There was no background in my family about entrepreneurship. So this was a whole new thing for me. And I started out thinking quite small. I went off and I did my training to become a hypnotherapist. And as soon as I'd finished that training and I qualified, I hung out my shingle, I put my website up, and I started to see clients one-to-one and started to network locally. But, I'd been a successful woman in the first half of my life, so thinking small for me wasn't really enough. And as soon as I was practicing, I also started running some workshops to teach other people about NLP and about coaching. And initially they were quite small audiences, 3, 4 people. That's fine. I was learning how to do it. And from that, I started to then think about, well, how could I make this bigger? How could I have more influence? How could I help more women? Because this is where I was getting to. I think somebody once referred to me in a business meeting, and not in a good way, as a menopausal woman. And I thought, oh, something needs to be done here.
Yeah, right. Like nobody really wants to have a label that confines or defines in such a strict way.
No,
Wow.
Absolutely. And that kind of attitude expressed to women is one of the things that can sap your confidence and make you think, is it all over? This isn't said in a kind way. It's not like saying, hey, you're a teenager, and you think, yeah, I'm a teenager, There's lots of good stuff around that. And there's so much bad connotation around menopause. I thought, I've got to do something about this. And that's when I decided I really wanted to write a book about it. And of course, once you've written a book and you get that book up on Amazon, you're then into a global market.
Yes.
Instead of being a small business in a small town outside a small city in a small country, I'm now global. I can now dream big and I can make contact with people all over the world and I can help women all over the world.
I love that you're bringing that up because these ideas, these programs, the stigma around menopause can limit us. And as you just mentioned, it can really knock you off of your confidence. But it's important for women to know that the ambition that we may have experienced in the early part of our life, it doesn't go away. Like once you can, yes, get past some of the menopausal symptoms that might be making your head a little fuzzy, you realize, I've got this energy. I've got this life force. I have these ideas. And most importantly, you have a vast number of years of experience that you can now transfer and translate into this next phase of life, which in your case, it's this entrepreneurial thing, it's this business, but it's also about sharing a message, leaving a legacy to help other people. So I'm so glad that you're mentioning that, your desire to think big, it was like, no, that's still there. I've got to go bigger.
Absolutely, and when I was younger, I thought, well, I'll achieve things while I'm young because it always seemed to be about that youth being so important. And then, as you say, I got older and I realized I had all of this experience and knowledge that I wanted to share and that I wanted other women to get that as well. It's so important to me that other women get that inspiration to do something for themselves and to dream bigger, because there's so much we can do now. The internet and technology doesn't have to be a scary place. In fact, it's just so enabling now.
It totally is. It allows us to connect, as you say, with a global audience. It also allows us to connect with people who are like-minded. So if you happen to be in a community or a family situation where people are not super motivated or stimulating or inspiring you to go after your dreams, you don't have to feel so limited anymore with the resources available to us. And I mean, gosh, look at Facebook, right? We can create these communities of connection and inspiration and empowerment. And then, yes, we can jump on a plane and go and visit you in the UK for one of your workshops and feel that we're still connected in a tribe.
Yeah, and one of the most important things a coach ever said to me was, who you spend time with is who you become.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to be careful who you spend time with. If you're with those sort of people who are taking your mojo away from you, who are saying negative stuff. I once had a boss, this is when I was still working in the civil service, and I was coming up to nearly 50, and I said to him, do you know, I'm going to go and study for an MBA. I'm going to do a master's in business administration. And he said to me, Pat, you're nearly 50. Why don't you go and do a watercolor course?
What?
What?
Oh my gosh. The limited thinking. Oh my gosh.
Don't spend time with those people. They're not the ones who are going to support you. Now, you know, there may be people in your life who are like that, and you actually need to limit your exposure to them. They might be really dear friends, but they're not doing you any favors in your business. So if your dear friends are giving you that kind of business advice, see them for a cup of coffee every now and then. Don't talk about your business. Don't take business advice from them. Surround yourself with people who are on a similar journey, or people who are already there, you know, the ones who can really give you ideas and support you and help to pull you up from where you are. Those are the people to spend your time with.
Absolutely. Not only can they influence your business, they can also influence your body. You know, like all these research studies that have shown that if we hang around people who are overweight or obese, even if they're not forcing food on us, that influence can make people gain weight and become heavier. And so I wonder how you dealt with, either in your own life or with your clients, this mindset around weight gain, because there had been a lot of pervasive mental ideas that, oh, okay, well, once you're over 40, I mean, yeah, everybody puts on a little bit of weight. Your metabolism is going down. So it almost makes women think that there's no way around it. And then, yeah, it is hard to keep up the same lifestyle and exercise if your energy isn't there. But I really found, at least in my practice, that the mental concept of, oh, I'm going to gain weight was more pervasive and more damaging than just even looking at, you know, what they were actually eating. How has it been with you and your experience with weight loss and weight gain around menopause?
Yeah, so finding that healthy weight that you can maintain is so important. I'm a little heavier than I used to be, but I keep my eye on it. I'm not saying that I'm weighing myself every day, because I really don't. You know, that's not a healthy thing to do. But I'll weigh myself once a month and I'll have a look. If my weight's starting to creep up, I'll take action. Because if you get to, I don't know if you've noticed this, that you get to a new set point with your weight creeps up, gets to a certain level and stops there, and you think, oh, okay, you know, and then, oh, it's creeping back up again. So if you start to notice it creeping up, take action. Again, look at what you're eating. Be really mindful about what you're eating. And mindfulness is the way that I work with my clients. I'm not saying to them, don't eat this, don't eat that.
Right. Right.
I'm saying to them, notice what you're eating.
Exactly. I love that. We have that in common, this mindful approach to weight loss. So do you do that with awareness? So you're teaching them to be aware of what they're eating, but do you also include hypnosis as a part of that? What is your approach to mindful weight loss?
So I start, even before the client comes to see me, I'll send them a journal to keep. And I'm really not looking at what they're eating. I'm looking at when and what their emotion is when they're eating, because of that emotional connection to food. And if there's a negative emotional connection to food, I'll need to deal with that. And then, so once they've come to see me and we're starting to look at that, making them more mindful and giving them some techniques for mindful eating, slowing down, you know. So often people tell me, oh, well, I get to the end of the meal and I don't even know where the food's gone. You know, so I'm getting them to slow right down. But then I'll record for them a relaxation hypnotic recording that will have some of this in it, priming them up to eat slowly, to really notice what they're watching, and then giving them lots of positive embedded messages about how they want to feel. Now, again, everybody's different. So in my first session, I'm going to have been talking to them about How will you feel when you've got the right outcome? And they're going to talk about their clothes fitting comfortably, or they're walking without aches and pains, or they're able to run. Whatever the thing is for them, those are the messages that I'm going to put in the recording, because I want them heading towards that really good outcome.
So you create customized recordings for your in-person clients, but I know if we go to hotwomencoolsolutions.com, you've also got a relaxation recording that we can download for free, right?
Absolutely, and it will have a lot of good information in it for you. You can just listen to that. Even if you only got relaxation out of it, that would be the start of your weight loss journey, because fear, stress, anxiety, those are the emotions that will put weight on around your waist. It's that cortisol adrenaline response that makes the body start to store weight around the waist as a resource. You think your body's working against you, it's trying to deal with all the stuff you're throwing at it. As soon as you start to relax, be calmer, you can let that weight go that's around the waist, that, if you like, is your weight life belt that your body's put there. So often at this time of life, that's where the weight is going, and it's connected to your emotions.
And so as we look at emotions, you, like I made shifts in my life based on pain. So just like you, in my previous career, I got to a point where I just was miserable, and I knew that I had to make a change. There was no yes or no. It was absolutely, I am making this change. But what do you say to women who maybe have been feeling that little nudge, that little urge to make a change, but they're either blocked by fear or lack of confidence? How do you help them emotionally prepare for, mapping out a future that's inspiring to them?
Absolutely. I mean, this is just so important. As you say, lack of confidence, negative beliefs. Those beliefs sit there working away in the background, whether you acknowledge them or not. Your brain is going, oh, we can't do this. We've never done it before. They've taken on that message of you're too old. You can't learn new things. Nobody wants what you've got to offer. You're not good enough. All of that negative stuff is playing in the background. So there's a lot we're going to have to do around beliefs just to start off with. But also the model that I really use is the one of neurological levels, that our brain works on all these different levels all of the time. And if we can align those levels, so if we're aligning your capabilities with your values, your beliefs, your purpose, your identity, you can become really strong and you can support yourself in this journey.
And so how do you help women identify and sort of really get clear and mindful of those levels? Can we go through a few of them?
Yeah, so the very highest level, your very highest level brain function is purpose. And it's that thing that is greater than you are. So you've mentioned some of those words, around legacy, around, inspiration, around, what could you do that gives back? And that's all aligned with your purpose. Now, I'm going to talk about purpose with every single client, whether they've come to me for weight loss or, confidence, or even if they've got a phobia. I'm still going to talk to them about their purpose, because this is like the CEO of your company. This is the one that's running the show.
Yeah.
And if you get your CEO right, if you're in a failing company, you could change the cleaners and, you'll all be working in a better environment, but it's not going to turn the company around. If you change the CEO and you get somebody with that really positive attitude, that's going to change everything about the way you work. So getting this purpose right is just so important. Now, some people are just born with a sense of purpose, and they can tell you straight off, oh, it's to make a difference in the world. It's to make a difference to women. It's to make a difference to children, to animals, to the environment. It's to create more love. They can just tell you straight away. For other people, nobody's ever asked them the question, and they've never asked themselves the question either. And so that can be a major piece of work in itself, is to tap in to that thing that makes you vibrate, that you're so motivated by it that nothing is going to stop you from doing it. And even if you've never had a sense of it, you can find that. You can find that thing that you most think, if this was what people talked about me when I'm gone, after I've died, if people are saying, wow, she made such a difference to this or that, that's the thing that's going to really change the way you view what you're doing.
I love that. I love how you're emphasizing purpose, because I think when we hit midlife and beyond, it's a golden opportunity for us to really get conscious about our purpose, right? Because for some of us, myself included, my life, the early part of my life, I went down a path based on what I thought was the right way, or what I should do, and what would get me the approval and all of that. And then for many people, when they have kids, it's like their focus gets shifted toward family, and it's like, okay, this is my purpose right now. I've got to raise this family. But when we get to that point, when our children are at a certain age, when we've realized that all the stuff we acquired in our career, yeah, it was good, I feel a little more confident, but it wasn't fulfilling, that it's now this golden opportunity to say, well, what do I really want my life to be about? And I love how you say, it's like, think about if you were gone, what would you want people to be able to say about you? So I love that. What is the next level that you look at beyond purpose?
So once you've sorted out your purpose, the next level down is your identity. It's who you think you are. Now, we'll have different identities in our lives, but what's your identity that's most linked to your purpose? So, as women, we'll have identities as wives, as mothers, as partners, as sisters, all of those identities. But who are you as you're moving forward into your purpose? Now, this for me was a big thing when I moved out from being a civil servant into becoming an entrepreneur, because I'd really strongly identified with being a public servant, with service, but also with, I put more than 30 years into this career. I put a lot of time and energy into becoming a director in a big government department. And if I was going to parties and social gatherings and I'm a director, that's kind of, that's who I am. To walk away from that was difficult. I had to create a new identity for myself around being an entrepreneur. And, the very first morning, the first Monday morning after I'd stopped working in an office, and it was kind of 10 o'clock and I was walking around the small local supermarket buying my sandwich, I thought, what have I done? I'm not wearing my suit in London with my team around me and somebody to go and get me a sandwich. What's happened? And so this is one of the things that I say to my clients is be ready for this. You might have invested a lot in your previous identity, and there's a little bit of grieving for that. You're going to have to let that go and then start celebrating your new identity and who you're becoming. So this is a really key part. They're all key parts.
Right, they are. But I love that you're saying, you can turn this into a celebration. So when we get back from the break, I'd love to pick it up there, because this idea that now we get to consciously choose our identity. And I have a little bit of a different languaging for it, so I want to talk to you about that when we get back. You're watching Liberate Your Authentic Self with me, Dr. Andrea Pennington. Check me out on Instagram at Dr. Andrea Pennington. And now, back to the show. So, who do you think you are? Huh? Who do you think you are to start a business and go out there and start a charity? Well, I say you are an infinite being with infinite potential to live out a mission or a purpose on this planet. And there's nobody that can define that but you. Okay, and maybe God or your higher self or whoever you think is helping to run the show. Well, I'm talking to Pat Duckworth, who is the author of Hot Women Rock. Hot Women and Cool Solutions, How to Control Menopausal Symptoms Using Mind-Body Techniques. And Pat, one of the things that you said, I'm totally in agreement with you on this purpose thing, but the way I look at the roles we play is when someone identifies with those roles and collapses their identity as a director or a CEO or even a mother or even the wife of so-and-so, if we make that our identity, what happens when you're no longer the wife of so-and-so or you don't have that title or that job? Which is why I say I would rather that people identify with their spiritual essence, and then you're an infinite being and you get to play these different roles. But I love the way that you framed it up for people, especially women, to celebrate the fact that no matter what you were or what you sacrificed in the first part of your life, now you get the gift of choice, of conscious awareness as you embark on this new path with your bold identity.
Yeah, and make it a bold identity, not so often when you go to networking meetings and somebody stands up and they say, I'm an accountant, I'm an accountant, I'm a solicitor, but they're not, they're the something. So I'm the hot woman with cool solutions. And that identity is much bigger than just being a something.
Yes, so, I love that.
Yeah.
I am the hot woman with cool solutions. Yes.
Oh, when I stand up and say that, women laugh. And I love that because they know what I'm talking about. And suddenly it's not something small and miserable and icky. Now it's kind of, this is something I can celebrate. And they often come up to me at the end of meetings and say, I love that. So I know, it's great. So, don't limit yourself too much with your identity. Make it that global visionary identity. You are the woman who's getting recyclable energy to a different country. You're doing something that's big and global, and the bigger that identity is, the more you're going to be able to achieve. So I love that you see it as that big, because we're really kind of drawing down that purpose into this massive identity.
Yes, yes, yes. And so we've got purpose, we've got identity. What's the next level that you focus on?
Values. What's important to you? This is really about, it's such a big subject because our values are playing out in our heads the whole time. Again, your brain is making decisions subconsciously a split second before your hand actually reaches out for the thing you've decided on. So getting in touch with your values is mega. Most people, nobody's ever asked them, what's important to you? What are your values? And there's a whole bunch of work to do around that. Is there a value around learning, around sharing, around nature, around curiosity, around giving back? There's a whole, there's some fabulous positive values playing out in people's lives. And how much is that value going to play into your identity and into this new thing that you're doing? Because particularly if you're going to work with other people, you need to understand your identities and your values and their values, because they can come into conflict. And then it can make you feel uncomfortable. So you might have a really strong value around community and giving back. And the other person might have a really strong value around financial security.
Yeah.
That's their thing. And so as you're trying to build the business, your value is, well, how can we give back? And the other person's thinking, how can I make this secure? And then if you don't know what your individual values are, you start having arguments about what you're doing in the business. You might even start sabotaging each other without realizing why you're doing it. It's possible to even sabotage yourself because you think, oh, well, I'm getting all this advice about putting money in the bank and, making myself secure. And what I really want is to be giving it to other people, developing them, helping them come on board. And then you start not doing the work you need to do to earn the money because it's not satisfying your values.
Yeah, that's so important.
Oh, absolutely. Getting your values sorted out and understanding the ranking of them just, could be the difference between having a successful business and not having one.
Absolutely. Well, one of my friends and business mentors, Derry Llewellyn-Davies, also in the UK, in his strategy on a page paradigm, values is right at the core of it. And he says a breach of values is a sackable offense.
Yeah.
But it requires that we become conscious of what are our values, what drives our behavior, and how would we judge another person's behavior based on, our own. Like everybody here knows that authenticity and integrity are my two highest values. So if I see someone who's going to likely violate or rub up against those in a negative way, there's no way I'm going to be able to work with them. And it's no love lost. I just recognize that either our values are going to work and play nicely together, or they're not.
Absolutely. And recognizing that and understanding that this could really impact you. So you need to distance yourself from somebody who doesn't have those values. Tonya Hoffman, who runs the Public Speakers Association, has two very important values around members. The first one is you have to be nice. And the second one is you have to not be perfect. And I love that. It says really clearly, if you want to come and play in this space, you've got to be nice. And don't think that everybody needs to be perfect. In fact, let's run the opposite way. Let's learn from what we're doing. Let's learn from our imperfections. So somebody who's willing to come straight up front and say what their values are, I love that.
Yeah, excellent. So we've gone from purpose to identity to values. What other levels of our brain and our focus do you bring into alignment for your clients?
Well, the next one is that essential one around beliefs. What do you believe about yourself? And what do you believe about what you're trying to do? And what are your enabling beliefs? So, our beliefs start when we're really young. The strongest ones are the beliefs that are embedded when we were young, that we got from our parents, our teachers, our society, our community, even from our young peers. I always tell the Father Christmas story, that you develop that belief really strongly because I don't want to upset anybody who's got a strong Father Christmas belief, but, I'm not saying either way. You develop that really strong belief, and then it took your peers and everybody around you to start to shake that belief to the point where you said, I'm starting to think perhaps there isn't a Father Christmas. So it's a really good illustration that even strong beliefs can change, that if you've got a belief that isn't supporting you, if you've got one of people my age don't do this, women aren't capable of this, people like me don't do this type of thing. If you've got those beliefs, those are negative beliefs, they're limiting you, they're stopping you from doing what you need to do. Get rid of them. Start to look at what your positive beliefs are. That I've learned things before, I can learn this now. I know other women who've done this, I can do this too. I can always learn something new. Those are the kind of beliefs that are going to see you through this, and you need to really develop those. But if you've got negative beliefs, the game's not over. You can change those limiting beliefs because they're not true, they're just a belief. And you can be coached or helped to get rid of them.
And so some of us find it really easy to intellectually get, right, I can learn, I can grow, but what techniques do you recommend? Is it mainly hypnosis to help those beliefs really sink in, going beyond the intellect into our unconscious and subconscious mind?
I work with people a lot on beliefs because there are a number of techniques for doing belief change that don't involve going into deep hypnosis. In fact, they're on that border between cognitive and unconscious because at some level you have to dig out the beliefs. But we only change a belief when we've got enough evidence that the opposite, the new belief, is true. And so some of the work that I do is around, what would be, so that's the old belief. Is it true? Is it really true? And then, okay, so what would be a more helpful belief? And now let's look at what the evidence is that that new belief could be true. And it's starting, the evidence will be there. In every circumstance, there is evidence for the new belief. It's just that you've been ignoring it because you've just been settling for the old belief. So sometimes it's as simple as just lifting out and listing the evidence of the new belief being true, and then getting people to start to take that on board. They might have to write it out. They might have to repeat it every day. They might have to make an affirmation. There's going to be other techniques once we've worked out what the new belief, the new enabling belief would be, and we've started to elicit evidence around it.
All right. So after we get back from looking at beliefs, what's next?
We're going to talk about capabilities.
That's a good point. That's a good place to move to next, because I would imagine you probably have worked with women who think, I don't know, maybe I can't. Maybe I can't make the leap into entrepreneurialism at this age. I mean, the technology. And so how do you start investigating capabilities?
Well, the first place is to look at what capabilities are already there. Now, if you've got to your 50s, you have got capabilities. You've survived that long. You have got capabilities. And again, let's just start by recognizing them. Now, if you've been at home looking after your family, that doesn't mean you haven't got capabilities. You've probably got great organizational capabilities. You might have negotiation capabilities. You might have you've learned some IT so you could teach your children. You might have become a really good taxi driver, because most of us go through that phase of driving the kids about. So you will have capabilities that you can use as an entrepreneur, whether you've been in the home, whether you've been in public service, or whether you've actually been out there already running something yourself.
Awesome. And what do we have to go after capabilities?
Behaviors. We're into the realm of taking action, because you've got those core set of capabilities. You might have identified some that you need now. We're all on a journey. We're all learning stuff, and so as well as identifying what you've already got, you'll have identified what you need to fill out as well. What else do you need to learn in order to do this? And some of that's going to be then, what's the action you're going to take? What are your behaviors?
Awesome. Well, we're getting close on time, so I don't want to miss the next couple of, how many other levels do you have?
We've got 2 to go.
Okay, so let's hit those, and then I really want to allow people to know about the free gift that you have for us and what you really want people to do next. So the last 2, Pat, what are they?
So we're into, what are you going to do about this? Because it's all right having this dream, this purpose, you've got your beliefs sorted out, you've got to take action. So this is your behavior. What are you doing about it? Think about all those sports people who've had a dream of, well, in the UK, winning Wimbledon, or, they want to be on the winning team in baseball or whatever. They didn't get there just by dreaming about it and feeling it was important. They got there by taking action, by getting up every day and doing what they needed to do. So perhaps some of that behavior is around going to learn those new things, get those new capabilities running. It might be around networking. Who do I need to connect with? Who's going to help me to get this vision, this whole story out there so I can influence more people? What else do I need to go and do some professional training? If I'm going to do this work, what do I need to do? What need to I have under my belt so I can do it? How am I going to get up every day and show up in the world? How are people going to know that this is who I am? So it's really important for me that I show up in a way that's inspirational for other women. That's why I do watch my weight and make sure I'm keeping a healthy weight. Why I get out there and I do talks and I interview other people, and I'm constantly trying to learn, because I want to role model what it's like to do this now, that I'm not laying in bed or in my deck chair with a newspaper going, okay, well, this is my vision, come and get it. You know, this is all now about the really good action that you're taking that's going to head you towards that goal. So yeah, behavior, what you're going to do now is really important.
Well, we're going to have to stop it there, but Pat Duckworth, this has been very, very inspirational. So you are fulfilling your purpose, I want you to know. So I want to encourage everyone to visit Hot Women Cool Solutions. Get Pat's book, Hot Women Rock. And you can also download these free gifts from Pat, including the relaxation recordings, the guided visualization to map out your future. And I think you're going to find that it is just the inspiration you need to look at midlife or menopause and beyond with a more positive attitude. So thank you again, Pat. It's wonderful to connect, and I appreciate the work that you're doing in the world.
Thank you so much, and thank you for giving me this opportunity, because the more we can spread this positive message, the better.
Absolutely. So, my dear friends, until next time, remember that you are a gift to the world, so share your presence with passion. Much love. Bye. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Dr. Andrea. And did you know I'm on the radio daily? Visit AmericaOutloud.com to download the Talk Radio app.